Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good day, wherever in the world you are. Welcome to episode
Eight, Hypnotic
eight.
Rambles, episode 8. Hi, everyone. And today we are talking about removing and transforming negative emotions.
Oh, wow. Can you do that?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. There are so many techniques. Of course, we both know NLP, which is neuro linguistic programming. And I think that's an excellent way of um, becoming aware of the feeling and transforming it, changing it, which straight away starts to lose its power,
Yeah.
would you say?
Oh,
Or the strength
yeah,
of
it
it,
does.
maybe?
It does. But just to remind people, where do negative emotions come from?
Hmm. From
Because
beliefs?
really, yeah, basically from
I'd say
beliefs.
from
And
beliefs, because I believe something must be, and then it's not happening, and then therefore I feel a certain way. Because if that
yeah,
belief happens in a way that I want it to happen, or something, because I believe that it's supposed to happen that way, then I feel good.
quite often that belief is to avoid pain. In fact, all of those beliefs are to avoid pain. Um, and they're trying to protect us. But
Always.
if they happened when we were much, if the circumstances are very different today, we're not that same person that we were, and we don't need that same level of protection. But it then became a habit of thought and a habit of reaction, and they
Yeah.
just limit our lives.
Yeah. Yeah. And knowing how to become aware of what we feel, even if you can't name it, it's fine. Locate it and then change it, transform it, remove it. Can happen on the spot. That's why it's good um, to know about this information that we are going to share. Because beliefs, sometimes we need a bit of time to recognize or become aware of a belief, and it may take a little bit of time to change it. Sometimes it happens straight away, sometimes it's not. But a feeling is different, because if you locate an emotion and transform it or remove it, that can happen straight away. And we feel, like, literally feel the transformation, literally feel that, okay, I am in a different state. And there are numerous ways to do this. And let's start with NLP.
Yeah, I mean, NLP is a wonderful tool, and there's a lot of protocols that will come from NLP, including what you and I both teach, which is kinetic shift.
Yeah,
Um, and there are others. David Snyder has techniques. There's all kinds of other tools and techniques out there. But
yeah,
I mean, at the end of the day, when we talk about negative emotion, ultimately what we're talking about is that it has a location somewhere. I mean, if you actually think about it, and we did a podcast on this, which comes first? Thoughts are the, thought or the belief or whatever name we put on it. But which
feeling.
the feeling or the belief, that's it, the thought or the feeling. And that was what we called it. And often people will only know that they feel anxious or feel when they actually physically feel something in their body. I mean, there's, that amazing book, The Body Keeps the Score. It's like there's so much, and there's so much now somatic therapies and stuff that just allow that actually go to show that we store trauma, we
Yeah.
store negative feelings in our body. I'll actually never forget my very first session of breath work. I mean, this was like about 10 or 12 years ago. And it was like half an hour of breathing to music, and it was at speed. It was and slow and speed and slow. And
Mhm.
literally after about half an hour of that, my body went into convulsions, and I was like, "What in the love of God?" This before I knew much about any of this.
Yeah.
It was like, but it was releasing a whole load of stored emotion that had been built up over time.
Yeah.
And that was just, but that was a very long way of doing it. And it's never had the same effect because I do breath work quite often, but it's never had the same effect since. Whereas some of the techniques that we've developed are an awful lot easier and simpler in which to do. You don't have to go through those whole levels, not develop, but work with.
But that doesn't mean that breathwork is, you would say that it's not working, because I've done it a few times and I always had different experiences with it. And I can hardly say that, oh, I knew what I was releasing. And I think breathwork is about releasing physical, like stuff from the physical body. And most of the time you don't actually know it because it's
No, we
just
don't.
like stored something, yeah, without digging. So this would, but again, this is my opinion based on my own experiences, that I think it's about not having to dig what it is where it's coming from. It's like you're doing that breath work and then it's releasing the body, but the after effect is like, wow, it's amazing
Yeah.
because it just feels so different. But it is hard. I have to say, I am always resisting it. I just don't want to do it. But then I know I feel better afterwards, so that's why I don't do it very often.
I used to do quite a lot of it. They were hour-long sessions or 2-hour sessions, and
Yeah.
yeah, you really felt great after. But there was a lot of intense work in the middle of it all. Thankfully, there are easier ways of which to get rid of stuff now.
So what we now know is that you can really work with emotions by locating them. So you really um, become honest with yourself. Okay, even if you can't name it, you just feel the emotion, you allow it to be there, you locate it. Okay, it's in my chest. And then you just analyze it, really, isn't it? Wouldn't you say? You analyze it. Does it have a color? Does it have a shape? Is it hot, cold? Like all sorts of, which we call submodalities of that feeling. And then really play with it. So what happens if I change it? Change the color of it? What happens if I change the temperature of it? What happens if it's sometimes we close our eyes, okay, it's here in front of me, right? So what happens if I move it from there? What happens to the feeling? And it just really finding the thing that will give the biggest change in that feeling, right? The submodality.
Yes. Yeah. It is because there's 4 or 5 different components that make it up: sound, sight, location, temperature, and so many different combinations to all this. Um, and once we're in a position that we can identify it, and that's the key, is to identify it, identify where it is. And you're right, we don't have to know what the cause of it is, but we will get an emotion, and an emotion normally we can name those emotions
Yeah,
ourselves. We don't necessarily need to know where it comes from, but when we change it, we change the way we feel.
yeah, that's right. That's
And I
right.
think the other thing, because you and I will be doing training on emotional detox and kinetic shift, the other and kinetic shift is one of those techniques in terms of using
Yeah.
those submodalities to make those changes. But kinetic shift normally is a process that takes place after an emotional detox. So it's almost like the emotional detox becomes the permission slip to get rid of all the general stuff that's there. So the, the other stuff is easier to remove, the stuff that's a little bit deeper.
However, you can just use kinetic shift or emotional detox on its own. You don't really have to link the two.
You don't have
It
to, but when you do, they're really, really,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It gives a different, yeah.
it's a deeper
So
ones.
let's talk about emotional detox then. What do we call emotional detox? Which I actually call decluttering, because for me, it's decluttering the mind and body. But that's
Yes,
again, I think both
it is.
terms are absolutely valid,
They
in
are.
my opinion. Again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because words have meaning to each and every one of us. So therefore, it's the meaning we give it, right? We talked about this before. And an emotional detox, emotional declutter, it's we store stuff. Like life causes us to have experiences, and not all of them are positive, and we don't always release those. I mean, it's really funny as you go through, because I use an emotional detox pretty much in every session. And people go, oh, God, I didn't realize I was holding on to that. Or those memories come up and they're going, where the hell? And it's like they just didn't realize they were holding on to it. My own personal thought is that, it's like when we're in an emotional state in any kind, we feel emotion more. So if we're in a heightened state in any shape or form and something negative happens, then we're just going to store it.
Yeah,
Or it has a negative connotation for us that puts us in the mood. We're going to store it. We don't always process each and every one of those, and consciously we don't think about them. They're not an issue. but unconsciously we do store them. And the emotional detox helps to release an awful lot of that. Not just the stress of today or yesterday or the day before, but all the way back because all that small stuff just gets stored. And the more emotional detoxes that take place, the, the less there is to declutter. But life causes us to have things to declutter anyway.
That's why I call it like that, because if you're really, if you think about it, if I declutter my wardrobe, I feel better. I make space, don't I? I get rid of the old, which is quite difficult for me when it comes to wardrobe side, bro.
I
I
knew
think
that
this
by the smile
example
that
is
was
not the
coming across your
best.
face.
It's not the best because us women, we do that. Oh, I might need that. I might wear that again. But anyway,
Well,
if you really do it in
I
any
was about
areas,
to ask actually, and when you go through it again, how much do you still have to get rid of?
oh, there's always something. There's always something. We change
Absolutely.
anyway, and then our bodies change as well, and then we're just like holding on to things. But this is exactly what happens to the emotions. So if I declutter any part of my house or any part of my environment, I feel better. It really does affect me, clutter. So I don't really, I'm not very good with clutter, and I love tidiness. But this is exactly what happens in the mind and the body. If you have lots and lots of clutters, things that don't serve us anymore, they can actually hold us back, and they can put us into a chaotic, almost stressful state. And that's a given. That's not just an opinion. That is exactly what happens in our mind and body. So Carl Smith came up with this amazing technique of emotional detox, declutter, which is amazing because it's really just guiding the mind to get rid of what is just there, sitting there, triggering us, holding us back, but it's not serving anymore. It's not useful anymore. So we start to release that from the mind and the body. And you what as you're going through it, you feel the effect. You feel that
Yeah.
the emotions are moving. It's amazing. I've personally never ever know what I release. Memories that when somebody does it to me or I do it to myself, because I find a way now to do it really effectively. I never know what I'm releasing, but I feel it. I feel it in my body that it's moving, and then I just relax. Right? It's an amazing feeling. By the way, I recommend it to
Yeah.
everybody. It's
Yeah.
quite good.
And it's one of those, I mean, we had a conversation on regression at one point in time in one of these podcasts. And, in regression, you're looking to target a specific event and you're going back to revisit it. With an emotional detox, you were doing a general clearing, but a lot of the specifics start to come up in that process. And it is a much easier way in which to deal with, and I don't only use regression in a case where emotional detox or kinetic shift hasn't shifted anything else that needed to be shifted.
Yeah, if it
But
comes up within the session or the client actually uh,
I'll
represents
still
that,
use
okay,
an
this is what
emotional
I
detox.
want.
Yeah, I'll still use an emotional detox.
Oh yeah, but then
And
after that, you're definitely moving into regression because they want it or something. Yeah,
if that's what they want, if that's what they
yeah.
expect, because this is ultimately about belief and expectation. But this tool of kinetic shift and emotional detox just allows for people to release so much and almost to lower that pressure cooker down, because we know that stress affects each and every one of us. We also know that stress affects us not just emotionally because it affects the mood the way we are, but when that's built up over a period of time, it also affects our physical body. I mean, we both work with incidents of that.
Yeah.
Our cells just start to wear and break down. The immune system has to work harder to fight all that cortisol and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff that flows out when we're in a stressful state. So doing an emotional declutter, an emotional detox is absolutely, I mean, now that when I didn't know it, I had no excuse. But now that I do know it, I have absolutely no excuse. And I recommend it to all my clients to come back every 3 to 6 months just to do that.
It's a
Um,
maintenance, absolutely
yeah,
a
it's
maintenance as
maintenance.
well. Because if you think about it, what happens when we are really entering that stressful state? We feel overwhelmed, but it's not just one thing. Many a times
No.
we get to that state because there are so many aspects of our life that we are facing with that stress, right? So it grows. it adds to it. Everything adds to it. And we just like that pressure cooker opening it. We need that really. And emotional detox or decluttering is absolutely the key to that, because that way we are not digging and then checking every single part of our life in that moment that gives us stress. We just do a general one, and it's just, it feels good. You feel more relaxed and more calmer and more clear in your mind. And then it's so much easier then to move to KS, kinetic shift, which is locating and removing the feelings one by one. I'll let you talk about the process.
Well, the process is literally to, after an emotional detox has taken place, it's about, is there any remaining feelings, that is there any remaining sensations that we're feeling? And where in the body do we feel them? What does it have a color? Does it have different sensations attached to it? Is it warm? Is it cold? We normally just work with color, but you can extend that. And does it have a number, as if 10 being the highest and zero being nothing at all? And the reason for that, obviously, is that as it becomes removed, as the person is willing to let go, and they have to be willing to let go of that, um, then we can get that scale of, okay, well, it was up here and now it's down here, so it's almost on its way out, and then we can get rid of it completely. Um, and we often know that emotions hide other emotions that are deeper behind it. You know, one emotion has led to another emotion, which pretty much sits on top of it. You know, I think we've all used the description that human beings were like onions. When we clear one layer, there's another layer beneath it. Um, and life will cause us to experience emotions. So, you know, they'll build up on top of all of these other emotions that we've incorporated. And which is why that emotional detox every so often is of such value. But as we pull back and as we just free and clear a lot of those, then clients become absolutely transformed. I mean, that pressure cooker drops all the way down. They start to, most importantly, they start to regain control of where they want to be rather than where
Yeah.
they don't want to be. You've often heard me talk about that YouTube, Facebook, and Google have an algorithm. So do we as human beings. It's a reticular activating system. But if we're filled with kind of limiting beliefs and negative feelings, then we're looking at the negative. We're not appreciating life. We're not experiencing life. We're not enjoying life. So when we free those emotions through true kinetic shift and true emotional detox, it gives people back the power to focus on the positive and the healthy and the good.
And seeing things differently, yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course, that other last expression you know, of avoiding a void. So we always replace it with something positive, with something healthy, with something good. So it's not just about um, taking something out, it's about replacing it with something positive.
Absolutely. It's about reconnecting, because
Absolutely
let's be
reconnecting.
honest, it's not about having a new emotion, because we all have all the good emotions, because if we never had them, we wouldn't know what we're missing, right? Because we've never had
Right.
them. So we don't know that they are existing. So we've experienced every single good emotion mostly. And what we do is to remind the mind that it's there, and strengthen it, reconnecting with it, really. But going back to just one thing that I'd like to say here, I am very much into, and I always remind every single person that I am connected to, that if you want your life to be changed, stop changing your environment and your world, because then it will never change. You have to start within. If you change your inner world, your outer world will change too. And that is my motto, and it is so true. And you can fight it, you can resist it, but until you realize that, as you said, John, if we look at the world with glasses that are negative, right, through negative emotions, that is exactly how we're going to see the world. We change
Right.
those emotions, we change those beliefs, we change the state, and we are going to see the world completely differently. And that's how we
Absolutely.
change our life. There is no other way. There is no other way
Yeah. And
ever.
even if you think about something, very simple that most people understand, you know, you wish to be healthy, but you're not. So you should go for a walk or go for the gym and go to the gym on a regular basis, eat healthy. But if you don't, then it's just going to be a wish that's never going to change. You're still going to do the same habits and the same behaviors, same lack of exercise, the same foods. So something must change. It must be now, and it must be me or you or whoever it is that wants to make that change. Do you know? But it does require a set of actions in with the likes of what we do with hypnotherapy. It's that desire to let go. It's that desire to be free of
Yeah,
that negative
absolutely.
emotion.
And that's exactly why we do this podcast, is to help people to become aware. There's another way. There's always another way, and then how to do it. Because we
Yeah.
can do it for ourselves, of course, with a helper or a guide. It's so much easier. Uh, but we understand also that we cannot have a guide every single day. It's just, we need to empower ourselves to do it for ourselves, I
And
think.
life gets in the way too. We get busy.
Yeah.
We all the life creates situations that require our attention, whether it's families, partners, friends, work, life. So we don't always take the time that's important. I mean, teaching people the value of self-care and taking the time out every day, whether it's, appreciation lists in the morning or the evening, whether it's, meditation or self-hypnosis at various times during the day. Um, whatever those techniques are, but it is about, this is just one of those where we as experts can come in and actually just help people to let stuff go.
Yeah, yeah. And our message always is to not wait until you hit rock bottom. Just don't learn from a health scare or an illness or a disease. Start the change now. Start to work on yourself and to let go of the past, because that is exactly what's holding you back, nothing else. Um,
Absolutely.
so who is kinetic shift for, as in learning it? Because we would like to
Well,
also
kinetic
share.
shift is really for anybody,
Mhm.
any therapist who, and many will have already learned it, and many who will watch this will have already learned it, but it's also for any therapist who wants more tools, better tools that I would think, because
And
it's a
faster.
standard core for me. I mean, it's the first thing I do in any session, is an emotional detox and kinetic shift. And any therapist who wants to upskill, any therapist who wants to give their clients better, easier ways in which to process, because most of these are content free as well, which means the client doesn't have to relive all those memories, which I dearly love, because it's literally, letting stuff go through an emotional detox and then pulling stuff out and just replacing it through kinetic shift. You're not reliving a memory, or not reliving it in the way that, it's painful, it's traumatic.
It becomes a
It's
story. You
easier.
remember it, absolutely, but there are no emotional charge to it. And that's the whole point here. And I would also like to mention here, or we both would like to mention here, that kinetic shift, to learn this technique, is not just for therapists. You don't have to have any experience. You can just use this for yourself or just help friends and family, which I think is amazing. You can use it on children. I used it on my children as well, and they love it because it's a really fast way of, and children get into it quite fast, by the way. Any kind of,
Yes.
the
Children are
NLP
great.
stuff. Yeah, children are great. They,
Yeah.
they don't
Close your eyes,
overthink
just
it.
imagine.
They do not overthink it. It's like, okay, I feel this way. All right, do you want to get it? Yeah, okay, let's do this. Few minutes, done.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think it's amazing to know this. I would recommend it to everyone, really. It's one of the things I think even teachers should know about this, because if they
Right.
just witness anything a child goes through, they can just help them overcome it so much more easier, understanding that, okay, if there's anything left, let's just transform it.
There is so many techniques that you can work with the body to change our emotions.
Mm.
To in an instant, to stand up with your shoulders back, head up, smile, and even throw your eyes up, looking upwards, and then try and find it's very difficult to feel poorly or to feel a negative thought. And that's an instant. That's just something that'll get you in a state change in a
Yeah.
moment. But what emotional detox and kinetic shift do is actually let go. They actually let go of the stuff that you've been storing. Because if we do a state shift, that stuff is still there. With emotional detox and kinetic shift, it is let go. So you're right. It's not just for therapists. Anybody can learn to do this. Ultimately, it's about empowering people to help themselves. to improve the quality of their lives. So anyone who wants to help people and improve the quality of both their own lives, because you also become very aware
Yeah.
of a lot of the emotions that you're experiencing yourself. And I think all of us as therapists, and there's absolutely no exception to this. There, someone's probably going to tell me there is, but in general, there's very little exception to this.
Just
That
say
as
it.
we go through whatever training we go through, we free ourselves from all the stuff that because we're people, and we've just been storing stuff over years as well. And we get new understandings and new ways of empowering ourselves more. So anyone who comes to that training will also be benefiting. Anyone who learns that technique as part of a training will also be benefiting from basically freeing themselves of any stuff that they've been stored onto. And as you
Exactly.
said, learning to do it for themselves.
Yeah. And that's, as you mentioned just now, we are exactly the same people as anybody else out there. Life's still happening to us, and it happened to us. But it's about how we choose to navigate through it. The more you release, the more calmer and clearer you are when something else happens in your life. Because it's just because we are hypnotherapists, it doesn't mean life doesn't happen to us, and we are not
No,
going. We don't have to
absolutely.
face big things in our life. We do, but it's about how we choose to navigate through it. And imagine this 2 days course of really letting go of what's holding you back, learning techniques and tools to help yourself and others around you to become this kinetic shift practitioner. So we are going to do this course in England as well as in Ireland in October.
Absolutely. It's an international venture.
We're taking over the world. So
Yeah,
what we're
so
going to
it's
do, yeah.
no, you go.
And what we're going to do now is we are going to have to bring this to a close, but we are going to share all the details in underneath this video and all
Absolutely.
well the
It's
description.
in October. People will learn both emotional detox, kinetic shift. That is training, and will also learn how to hypnotize and instant inductions.
Yes,
And there's
it's an
details attached to it.
introduction to hypnosis as well, so
Absolutely, yeah.
quite exciting. So for more information, just read the description and get in touch. Please
Absolutely.
ask any of us to any questions you may have, and then we are happily
Yeah.
answering.
Absolutely. And as it so happens, if you are a therapist who's already just wants to refresh, wants to just come and spend the weekend with us, yeah, there is a charge for that because there'll be a refreshing, there'll be an upskilling in terms of the process. But all of those details are on both of our websites.
Yeah, but I think as a therapist, think about having 2 full day session for yourself, because that's just going to help you to get rid of some more stuff, whatever you're going
Absolutely.
through. And also, what we'd also like to share is that there is a 50% discount right now if you want to sign up for the
Correct.
2 days. So don't miss the chance.
Yeah. It's everything else. Yeah, that's the one to go for. So, yeah.
And with that,
Mhm.
thank you so much for listening. As always, have a
It's
magical day wherever you are.
well, thank you for sharing all the information that you shared. And to everyone else, just have an absolutely wonderful day wherever in the world you are, and whatever time of the day you're watching this is. It's a bank holiday Monday. It's wet. It's not really sunny here. But anyway, still smiling.
It is quite sunny and hot where I am. So, but yeah. So thank you
Right.
again and bye for now.
Take care. Bye.